welcome to lesson 10. You made it, the last one of our series in how to use chord charts and lead sheets to play in modern worship environments. For this lesson, I'm just going to touch on a few things that might be helpful in situations you might encounter as you are navigating this. First up is introductions. If you are if you are playing just on piano, you might be asked to, you gotta have some way to kind of set the stage so that the worship leader or the congregation can come in. The easiest way is just to vamp on the main chord. So for example, in our song Amazing Grace, we start on a G chord. You can just vamp for 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Amazing Grace. Okay. Something you can do to make it a little bit fancier is to just put either a sus2 or sus chord every other chord. So you start with a G chord, then you can do a sus4, back to a G chord. Okay. I actually alluded to that in the second line there. Instead of calling it a G sus, I just called it a C2 chord because it's the same thing, just rearranged. That just gives it a little more motion, kind of breaks up the monotony a little bit. So that's something you can do. Just know a lot of times in these environments, a lot of times in music you'll see like V, V, C, B, and you're like, what does that mean? It's just telling you where you're jumping from verse to chorus to bridge to tag to coda, whatever it may be. Just make sure you have your music well marked, whether that's a lead sheet or a chord chart, so you know exactly where you're jumping. How to use recordings. Sometimes you will listen to a song that you are going to be playing, and there's like a specific riff or like a specific motive that's like part of the recording. Most of the time it won't be written out in a lead sheet. Sometimes arrangers do like use cue notes to indicate that, but most of the time you just have to listen to it. Just make sure you sort that out ahead of time and you know exactly if it is a riff that the piano is supposed to play. Make sure you can play that. And teachers, if you are helping your students with this, I will say this is a great ear training exercise to kind of walk them through. And usually it's just a short little snippet, so it's not super overwhelming. And sometimes that ends up being like the favorite part of the song that the student's learning, because they're like, oh my word, I'm actually playing like what I hear on the recording. So just know that's something that you need to be responsible for. If you hear like that certain motive or that certain riff that's played on piano, make sure you can play that. When you are listening to these recordings, just make sure you pay attention to like, is it an actual like acoustic piano that you're hearing? Is it like a B3 organ? Is it a pad sound? Every situation is going to be different as far as like the keyboards or main stage or whatever they're using for that. So just make sure you know exactly what sounds you need to be implementing. And sometimes it's just a straight up, just be able to play the piano sound. So I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Another thing people struggle with is, what do I play in between songs? If you finish a song and someone's talking or praying or whatever it may be, most of the time you can, especially if it's just very brief, you can just kind of go through the same chords that you just got done playing. I'm just playing the chords that were from Amazing Grace, maybe adding some color notes. Okay? That's something that the more you do it, the more comfortable you sound. I will caution you, it's really easy just to go back from the G to the C to the G. And after a while, that can get really old to listen to. So stretch yourself, see if you can make it a little bit more creative than that. As a plug, I will say, if you find yourself, maybe it's an extended amount of music that you need to provide, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really creative, we do offer on our website a package of underscores that we have written in every single key. Every underscore is available in every key. We have a matrix that shows which ones are for major or minor or duple or triple or more complex or easier. because we really want this to be a resource that people can use if they want. So for example, this is underscore 43. It's in G major. It's in 3/4 time. Let's say we just came out of Amazing Grace. So someone starts talking, you can go right into this underscore. So I'm going to jump to the third section now. And then let's say he's getting ready to wrap up, or she, whoever may be talking, and maybe you want to go back to Amazing Grace. It's totally set up so that you can do that. So we wrote these to be a tool if people don't necessarily feel comfortable vamping in between sections. I think that covers, let's see, is there anything else? Oh, and I already mentioned this earlier. If you maybe were asked to do this at the last minute and you're like, oh, these chords just aren't happening, you can always just play the first and the fifth. Amazing grace, okay? No, you're not indicating if it's major or minor or sevenths or susses or anything like that, but sometimes in a pinch, that's what you have to do. And I just want you and your students to feel like sometimes that is a perfectly acceptable avenue to take. And then after the fact, go back and make sure you learn it and you're more prepared for next time. So thank you for watching these videos. I hope they are helpful. I hope they are practical and you can really use these in the environments that you are involved with. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.